All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat.
And I'm Eric.
And I am Stan.
And today we are going to be talking about the Harry Potter RPG called Hogwarts Legacy that was announced at the PS5 showcase recently. And then we're also going to be getting into the acquisition of ZeniMax and, by extension, Bethesda and its software by Microsoft. So $7.5 billion just bought a huge chunk of some major IP. So we're going to be getting into that and talking about what this means for gamers and for people like us that are big RPG gamers. What does this mean? And then we're going to be getting some more into Final Fantasy 16. We've done a lot of Final Fantasy 16 content recently. We did a reveal reaction discussion, and then I did a trailer breakdown. And then just yesterday, we had a discussion with Alleyway Jack, where me and Stan discussed the trailer some more and basically the new direction of Final Fantasy. But we have some lingering thoughts that we want to address here, and Eric was unable to give some follow-up thoughts on his impressions with the trailer outside of his initial reveal reaction. So definitely want to give some time for that. And that's going to wrap up this week's podcast. Now, I do want to bring up that I want to quickly acknowledge that there was a Nier Replicant announcement, so a new Nier game. There's also a Nier mobile game that's coming that Eric is very excited for. He was talking about this prior to the podcast. And
now, do take note, this Nier Replicant is an HD remaster of the first Nier game.
Right.
And what we got in the West was Nier Gestalt, where the main character is an older man who is seeking a cure for his daughter. And this is Nier Replicant, the version that came out in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is different only pretty much in that it's a brother trying to find a cure for his little sister. And you're a much younger character and one you more typically find in JRPGs. It was a really weird decision to try to appeal to the West with an older character, but I really like the idea of a father helping a daughter more than a brother and a sister, but I've always wanted to try this version. So I'm really glad that they've given us an opportunity coming up this April. I believe April 21st, 2021.
Okay.
No, April 23rd, 2021
Very
is
cool.
when the game comes out. So I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I can tell. Very, very cool. So we'll definitely dive into that some more as we hear more and we have some more to talk about. And then also this week or this past week and a half or so, there were 2 Monster Hunter games that were announced for the Nintendo Switch that look pretty good as well. So very excited about that. And we'll definitely get into that in the future. And then there are strong indications that a Switch Pro will be coming in 2021. So that's naturally going to lead into stuff that I like to talk about. So I'm sure that we'll dive into that in the future. But these are all really, really exciting. But only so much time in a single podcast episode. So we're going to stretch some of these topics out and we'll get to that stuff in the future as it comes up. But starting things off here, Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy. This game's coming in 2021 and it's currently got 11 million views on YouTube right now. It's a Harry Potter RPG. And it's been one of those games that's been kind of out there in the leak, Reddit area where they're showing little screenshots and stuff, and everyone knew it existed. But this was the first time that it was actually announced. So it's coming to basically every console, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Series X, and PC, I guess not Switch, at least right now. But it's described as an immersive open-world action role-playing game set in the 1800s wizarding world. I can't say that word. But it puts players at the center of their own adventure. What's kind of unique about that, obviously, is because it's taking place in the 1800s, you do not play as Harry, but you play as a new wizard. A lot of people are presuming that you get to design your own character because they didn't really introduce a specific character here. So it seems like you get to design your own character. But at the beginning of the game, the website says you get to choose your house and basically, that will dictate what happens with your character throughout the story. And then obviously the game takes place at Hogwarts Castle, and you'll have the ability to visit many other locations in this world. It has a crafting system, spell books, combat. You'll get to fly on a broom. There's magical creatures, right? Everything you would expect.
Quidditch.
Quidditch, yeah, Quidditch is in there as well. So what's interesting, though, is it says on the website that J.K. Rowling is not involved. She did not write the story. However, it did say her extraordinary body of writing is the foundation of the new story, and that J.K. Rowling is supportive of the project, which I interpreted as she's fine getting paid, and they're fine with her not working on it because she's kind of controversial right now. Let's not linger on that too much, but yeah.
She's basically the George Lucas of the Harry Potter universe now. She's now letting other people make stories, and she just approves it and makes sure it follows the guidelines and
And things
rules
like
of the
that.
universe.
Yeah, exactly. So what's interesting about this too is that WB Games, they created Portkey Games, which is a new label specifically for publishing new Wizarding World games, which I assume means Harry Potter games. But the development itself is being handled by Avalanche, who you may know has recently worked on Just Cause 4, Rage 2, and Mad Max. So yeah, it's got some very good experience behind this game, and this has been a game that a lot of people, like I said, knew existed because there was some leaked video footage from a cell phone about it. But people were like, "When is this game?" It's been a common piece of discussion. When's this game going to be announced? So it was a big surprise, I think, for a lot of people that it showed up at the PS5 showcase, even though it's not a PS5 exclusive. But what did you guys think about what you saw with the trailer? Because I thought it looked great.
I think this kind of game is long overdue. It's
Yeah,
like, why hasn't a game like this been made yet? This series has been out for so long. I think it looks real good. I don't really have many complaints. Aesthetically, it looks nice. I like that you travel to these different colorful areas, explore the towns, you can explore the castles. I think this is a Harry Potter fan's dream game to play something like this. And I actually really like its base in the 1800s because while you still have to be set in the basic rules of the universe, you are still open to make your own kind of story
right.
that's not bound to other characters or have to write for other characters where people will complain like, well, that's not something Harry Potter would have done.
Yes,
And
yeah.
like, and so it's always good to go into that different territory just so you can express your creativity even more. Kind of similar with Fantastic Beasts, but even though they've brought in characters in the second movie that brought familiar characters back, I do like that they're going that route, and it better serves the purpose of make your avatar feel like the main character.
Hmm.
Like you don't feel like there's a Harry Potter out there who's actually doing the actual hero stuff. You feel like you're the center of the
Right, right.
universe.
Yeah.
So I hope they do something like that. So, but overall, the game looks real good. The only thing I'm worried about is if WB will pull off any microtransaction crap like
With the Lord of the
Shadows
Rings
of
game,
Mordor
yeah.
2. Yeah, that was really messed up. And this is the kind of game where you could really take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, if we could just touch real quickly on the point you made prior about this being set in the 1800s, that was the first thing that I saw that really got me pumped about this game because you're completely correct. And this reminds me of BioWare making KOTOR, right? Because
Exactly.
they were given the opportunity to either create an RPG and the timeline of the films, or they could go 1,000 years prior. But they were told if it was in the current timeline or the current time period, I should say, that they were going to be under review. Every creative decision was going to be reviewed by people to make sure they weren't doing anything crazy with the time period and making, the movies look bad, which realistically, I'm surprised they didn't take that much effort with the films. But regardless, BioWare ended up going with KOTOR 1,000 years prior, and that gave them a complete license to be able to do, I don't want to say whatever they wanted, but they had a lot more freedom, and it really worked out for them. So I thought this was a great decision to go back into the 1800s. The only thing that I'm really seeing that may cause them some issues is apparently J.K. Rowling said that Dumbledore was 150 years old near the end of his character arc there, but the book said he was 115. So wherever you fall on that, there is a window where you could have a young Dumbledore in this
Hmm.
game, and that's a possibility to jack some stuff up. So I'm kind of curious at what point in the 1800s this is going to be, because if it's the late 1800s, then that would be he might make an appearance, and then that could be a possible scenario where they could make some fans unhappy. But overall, 1800s good. I probably would have went 1700s if it was me leading this project with my zero game making experience. But yeah, I mean, just being able to avoid the 7 books and like the 8 movies, that's a lot of crap for them to try to navigate. Imagine trying to make an open world RPG under that kind of lens. That would just be really, really difficult. So I think this is going to give them a lot of freedom, and I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, I think it's a good, really, really good idea. And WB Games did the same thing previously with their Lord of the Rings game, the Mordor style games, right? They reference the lore and like use the setting, but then the character and his story is like completely separate from the core trilogy of books or films, like
Yeah.
however you look at it, right? And so that's yeah, that gives you more freedom, and it also just keeps the rabid fans off your back, right? If you screw up one thing, right, then you're not going to hear about it for the rest of your life, or get people to boycott your game because it's not lore accurate, right, to the story. So it's a
Yeah.
good idea. I think the character being like we're presuming like you can create your own character and have a lot of choices around like the decisions they make, kind of like
Hmm.
open quest structure style progression is like also a pretty good idea because it's Hogwarts, right? So you are like a student like entering
This is
coming
going to
into this.
be Fire Emblem Three Houses, I imagine, which Three Houses was very much compared to Harry Potter. So it's going to be
Yeah, yeah.
it's gonna be funny.
What do you think they're gonna do for the magic? I have a friend who was he's into Harry Potter and he saw the trailer for this game and got really excited. I haven't read any of the books and I've only like seen the movies
Stan,
channel surfing,
no Game of Thrones, no Harry Potter.
that's right.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Well,
I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be more action oriented, just for the sake of it being a video game. But I do think there's going to be a lot of puzzle elements too that will use different kind of magics depending on the situation. I'm imagining there will probably be times where you can use the environment to take advantage of a situation. If I imagine, I don't know how many spells are canon to Harry Potter, but I hope it's not too much like the Force, where you can make the Force do anything. Your cop out excuse to get out of any situation in a Star Wars story.
If
right.
there is not a warp spell to get me out of a dungeon, 0 out of 10 game. you know? But I mean this universe is so perfect, I think, for an RPG. And I've always felt that, and especially for an open world RPG, but there's just so much opportunity with the fact that the characters themselves in the lore are there to learn spells, right? Which is
Mhm.
what your character is going to do naturally in, like an Elder Scrolls game or a typical RPG, where you're just kind of leveling up your character, learning new abilities. This is something that you're going to have to do in the game, and it's going to create a very immersive experience, I think, because that's what your character's doing in the story, right? So I think it's just really going to work out well, I would presume. Eric, you brought up microtransactions. That is a concern, I guess. I didn't really think about that, but I hope not. I guess we'll have to find out. But I just want to say that the presentation on this trailer, though, was just top notch, in my opinion. I mean, it came in with that very bombastic film like score, and then you just had that awesome narration going over it. It just sucked me in like I was watching a Harry Potter film for the first time. So, just great showcase for, I think, for this game. One
I
thing,
can tell you,
go ahead.
I like the Harry Potter series. I actually didn't watch the movies till actually recently, about 2 years ago or so.
Mhm.
I can tell you my wife is a huge wizard of the series, and she got excited when she saw that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's got 11 million views on the trailer already. Anyways, I'm excited for it. 2021, Hogwarts Legacy. I'm in. I'm buying it. Day one, most likely.
Nice.
Cool. So let's move on here. We have Microsoft buying ZeniMax, which really what everyone's talking about here is Bethesda, but Microsoft dropped $7.5 billion. That's a ton of money. And they paid all cash, by the way. All
Jeez.
cash.
it's
They
still it's still a fart in the wind to Microsoft. That much money.
yeah,
They
but
have they're a
good.
$1 trillion company. Yeah, last I checked,
Mhm.
$1 trillion.
But this is the one of the biggest acquisitions they've done with especially in gaming, because before this they bought Minecraft for 1.5 billion, which was astounding to a lot of people. But
Yeah.
this is just like a whole new level. I mean, like,
It's almost double what Disney paid for Star Wars, which was like 4 billion.
which is
Now
crazy.
that was like 5 years ago, but still, it's like
But to think about it though,
5, 6 years ago.
to put it in context, because people are like, oh, it's Bethesda 2 Star Wars or whatever, right? But the thing is, Star Wars is a single franchise, right?
Right.
Whereas they just bought like 25 franchises, so it's really the collective, and they bought all the the computers and like all the buildings and like just everything involved with that. But this is just crazy to me. When I saw this, it took me like a day and a half to fully process it, because like I said, not only was it all cash, meaning a lot of times with these deals they'll do like 20% cash, and then like a lot of it's like ownership in the company, and then they'll give other perks too, and then they'll promise to pay it by a certain date. Like Microsoft just showed up and was like, no, cash, 7.5 billion. Like day one. But it was so aggressive, and Microsoft spent all this time over the past couple of years being like, oh, Sony's not our competitor. We don't really consider Sony a competitor. They're not really our competitor. And then, this past week, right before pre-ordering their console, they were like, $7.5 billion.
Yeah.
Bethesda bought. So they bought the Elder Scrolls series. They bought Fallout. A part of this acquisition included the Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Wolfenstein, The Evil Within, Dishonored, Prey. Those are some of the bigger ones, but there's a lot others. And, Microsoft did say any current deals that have been made, they are going to honor. So it's kind of weird, but Deathloop and Ghostwire are games that they're going to own now, but those were already contracted to be PS5's timed exclusives. So Microsoft said, we're not even going to try to renegotiate that. Those games are just going to come out. They'll be PS5 exclusives, and then they'll come to Xbox. So clearly this is Microsoft's attempt to address the problem that they've been criticized for of not having any IPs of their own besides Halo and I don't know,
You know
some
what's
other
really
ones.
interesting?
What's that?
They bought Obsidian, who
Yeah.
branched themselves away from Bethesda, but now Microsoft has bought Bethesda. Now, this is awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
People are hoping now that Obsidian will get a crack at like a Fallout New Vegas too, since now they're both owned under Microsoft. But I'm sure there's more that actually has to happen in order for that to, come together. But I
Well,
mean, it's a
Well,
possibility.
it comes to really asking the question is, how involved is Microsoft realistically going to be with these companies? They're ultimately going to be a parent company, and they may have some say in some things, but will they really get in the way of telling Bethesda what to do
well, they
with their game?
promised Microsoft did make a statement that their goal was to not mess with Bethesda and not mess, with the companies under, like they're not going to try to pull an EA with BioWare, and they're going to try to leave it alone and let them kind of do their own thing. However, will that happen if Bethesda puts out a game that loses them money, if they do another Fallout 76 situation, is Microsoft going to step in? I mean, I think that's the question. But to touch on your point, Stan, about a New Vegas 2, somebody did tweet at Obsidian about it, like the day of the acquisition, announcement. And somebody tweeted at Obsidian, was like, hey, so you're making Fallout New Vegas 2, right? And Obsidian responded with just like arms in the air, like, like I guess I don't. So it's not impossible, I guess, right? Because I would imagine all the tensions between those are kind of alleviated with Microsoft. But some people, I've seen this a lot, and I disagree. I'm just going to let you guys up. No, I'll tell you why in a bit, but I'm curious what you guys think. But some people believe that Microsoft is going to allow these games to be cross-platform. So, Elder Scrolls 6 they'll allow it to come to the PlayStation 5 because they can get more money from the game sales on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. And so for every, Skyrim sold 30 million copies being available on all these platforms. And if they have it limited to just an Xbox, it's going to sell like 8 million copies. So that's 22 million copies they're losing money on, and that's a lot of money to leave on the table. And so people think that, okay, well, they let Minecraft be cross-platform. Why wouldn't they let all these other games be cross-platform and leave that money sitting on the table? I guess I'll just start. I completely disagree with that. And I'm curious if you guys think that they'll do that. But to me, you don't spend $7.5 billion to put an IP on your competitor's platform. I mean, there's a reason why Breath of the Wild is not coming to the PS4, despite the fact that it would sell more copies, So
Yeah, I'm with you. Like $7.5 billion, like they're looking to make that money back. And one way you do that is to either get people to buy your console or sign up for your monthly service where all the games, where those Bethesda games will now be available.
yeah.
Like I would almost go the opposite way. I think they would maybe even go as far to like make these games like timed exclusives to their Games Pass service.
Oh,
Like
wow. Okay.
if I was a businessman, I'd go in the opposite direction and I'd say, you want to play Elder Scrolls 6, like sign up for Games Pass because like the first month or two, like that's the only way to play it,
Yeah.
right? And then release it for Xbox consoles, and then maybe like a year or two later, consider multi-platform, right? Where it's like, okay, at this point, anybody who's wanted to play the game,
hmm
right, like really badly, has paid us more money in some way. So
Right.
now you go after the like the PlayStation people who just no matter what, they're not signing up for your service, right? But you can make some more money by releasing the game to them now. Kind of like what Sony did with Horizon Zero Dawn, right? Like Horizon was
hmm
exclusive to PlayStation, I think, for 3 or 4 years. And it was at the point where they feel like, okay, there's a certain like PC audience that just isn't gonna buy this game for PS4, or they're not buying a PS4 regardless. So we can make money by porting it to PC and selling it to a new player base, But Microsoft isn't gonna make back $7.5 billion by just saying like these games are available to every
To
console,
everyone.
Yeah,
The,
I
the,
don't
Well,
think
I
so.
would say, why the hell not? Uh,
well,
I'll, I'll, I'll play. I'll disagree for fun here.
okay.
Um,
You want me to
uh,
respond or do you want to make your case first?
well, I'm gonna make my case.
Okay, go ahead.
Does it really matter if it's on PS4 or Nintendo Switch, which is only two out of the what's it going to be, four platform? No, five platforms. The Xbox Game Pass, PC, Xbox. That's all there.
They said they'll be on PC for Game Pass for sure.
Yeah, yeah. They said that for all Microsoft products. Now, if they put it like on PS5, the money still goes to them when that purchase is made on that console. Now,
It goes to
Microsoft has
Sony
been
too, though.
Yeah.
Microsoft has been pretty keen on kind of just saying that, like, hey, we're not really in the console race as much anymore. We have the Series X for people who want to take advantage, the most advantage of our games. And I don't know. It's like they still make the sales when they're on PS4. It's good. It looks good on them when they're offering that game to their other customers or other potential customers. Like I'm still hoping they put Banjo Kazooie HD on the Switch because why not? Why not put rare games on the Switch? I mean, they stand to just gain more money from it. So I don't see why not from there. And I think the same thing with like Bethesda. It's like, what do you have to lose by putting those on there? It's like the consoles are going to sell the way they are already. People have already decided they're going to just play games on their PC or the Series X or the PS5. It's like, might as well take advantage.
So why
I
is
guess
Halo not on the PS4 then? With that same
'Cause
logic.
that is a first party Microsoft title.
So why would they care though?
Bethesda is a second party.
So here's the thing. Here's my opinion on this, and I'm not saying that you're wrong because I've even heard a very compelling case where they could say, "Hey, Elder Scrolls 6 comes out on both consoles, and you have Game Pass available for $15 a month, or if you want, fine, go pay $70 on Sony's console, and like that might be enough a deterrent because then players could say, okay, $70 on PS5 or $15 a month on Xbox. I could see that argument, but the thing is, putting it on Sony's console, they're getting like Sony's getting a 30% cut of every single game that's sold on there. And on top of that, like I said before, there's a reason why console hardware companies, right? They have exclusives, and that's because they're looking at it from a big picture. They want to be able to go to other third-party developers and they want to say, hey, come to our console, put your game on our console, because then they get a 30% cut of every game sold on the Xbox. And so in order to get more games to come to Game Pass, in order to get more games to be on the Xbox, they need to show that they have a strong install base, and they're not building their install base by putting their games on other consoles. So I think that they're putting it in, I think multiplayer games, Minecraft, that makes sense. There, you already had a base on there that was already playing on another console. They want people to be able to play with their friends. But I think like I'm leaning more towards a little bit what Stan was saying, where, okay, Elder Scrolls 6 will come out for 3 years on exclusive to the Xbox. And then after 3 years, anyone that was a diehard Elder Scrolls fan that was going to buy an Xbox to play Elder Scrolls will have bought an Xbox and signed up for Game Pass. And anyone that's still lingering, okay, fine. At that point, put it on a PS5, sell it for $70 and make that extra money, or $50 or whatever. But it's just $7.5 billion is a lot to put that game on a PS5. I think they were thinking big picture here, in my opinion.
First off, characters like Master Chief and Marcus Phoenix don't represent Microsoft. They represent Xbox
Mm-hmm.
as a whole, so it doesn't make sense to have pretty much your mascot.
Well, don't they want Elder Scrolls to represent Xbox now too? Since it's one of the biggest, Elder Scrolls is probably bigger than Halo.
It represents the quality of the platform, but it doesn't directly do that. Like how Mario is the representative of Nintendo. You're not going to see Mario Odyssey on the Xbox because that's his.
Well, they could make 3 times the money. Why leave it there?
You see, that's where I agree with you there. Like I said, I'm not an economist, so really,
right. We're just all guys talking here, but
I'm honestly arguing just for argument's sake.
Right.
I really don't sway one way or the other. But the one thing is though that Elder Scrolls 6 in their new game was already announced to be on Sony platforms also, right?
Before the deal, yeah. I don't know if that was contracted though.
I would think Microsoft would be honor bound to that also, possibly. Not saying they are, but possibly.
Yeah, if there's a contract signed, maybe.
Now, who knows when Elder Scrolls 7, if that even comes out in our lifetime? comes out, and Microsoft is like, okay, but this one's going to be exclusive. I don't even know what gaming services will be like when that a time when Elder Scrolls 7 comes out.
Yeah, that's way in the future. What
So it's really hard to say how Microsoft will work with the Bethesda name on their future products if
mm.
they're honor bounding everything right now. But
Well, here's the
I don't know.
thing. Here's the thing.
Anytime.
I think that everyone's reacting to this acquisition and with rose-colored glasses. like but Microsoft, everyone's acting like Microsoft is this pro-consumer company because, Series X has backwards compatibility, you have Game Pass, very pro-consumer, right? But I don't get the impression that Microsoft is inherently pro-consumer because at the beginning of this generation, they weren't going to let us buy used games,
I
right?
think that's the reason they're so pro consumer.
They
Yeah, they
had, but they were forced to do it because they were failing. But
yes.
the moment they're very competitive again, I don't think they're still going to be super Mr. Pro consumer. I think that they're going to start using some of that aggression that we just saw now with that $7.5 billion acquisition of Bethesda. I think they're going to turn into a similar shell of their former self. I don't think they'll be stupid enough to not let people buy used games, but
To be fair,
I think
you see that with PlayStation also, like, at the end of the PS2 era, starting the PS3,
yeah.
they they thought it was, they thought they could just release a $600 console, like, in a recession, and it would be fine, and they weren't so pro-consumer themselves, and then, you know, you'd like
Hmm.
to think they learned those lessons,
Yeah.
right? But then now coming off the, we'll see how it goes, I guess, going from the PS4 to the PS5 era. They still seem mostly in the gamers' good graces, but,
they've
these
taken a
companies, it goes up
sh-
and down.
at Sony time to time. Like when Sony was all about like not doing crossplay because their platform is too great to be cross platform with anyone else like to Nintendo or Microsoft. And then Microsoft was like, I don't care. Just we'll play with PC, we'll play with Nintendo. That's cool. And then like people kind of got cornered up on Sony. Like, why is everyone doing it but not you? And then Sony finally gave in and
Yeah.
allowed them to be cross server with some games.
They're
Like
like, "We take
Microsoft is
flak for this," yeah.
yeah, Microsoft is giving a little shade back for what Sony did to them at Microsoft. You remember that video when the whole thing was you
Having
couldn't give a game to someone,
having
like
you
you
share.
had to deregister it from your Xbox and then you could sell the code to someone else or something like that.
So stupid. Yeah.
So Sony made a video of how to give your game to another person. They took the
Oh,
copy of the game. They're like, "Here you go." They're like, "Gee, thanks." And
That's
that hurt Microsoft really badly.
yeah.
So I'm
mm,
sure they'll take any opportunity they can.
Well, and that's the
yeah.
thing. They've been trying to find their window of opportunity here because their console has just hit like 50 million units sold, and Sony's at like 112 million. I mean, it's just a total blowout. So I think that they've had to adopt these principles and these moves to try to change the opinion of people. And I think part of changing the opinion of the consumer is addressing the biggest criticism people had of Xbox was the lack of IPs that they own. People would always, I've said it, why would you buy an Xbox? It's the most powerful console in the market and it doesn't have any games, you know? But
Things on PC, yeah.
but
I
now
think Microsoft the long game. I think they ultimately want the Game Pass to kick off and
that's the
want to be
thing.
king of the gaming streaming service like Netflix is the movies.
If they can
Mhm.
say, hey, if they can go to third party developers and say, hey, we have an install base of 80 million people in Game Pass, that's what they want. Because then they don't have to sit there and try to, pull people's teeth out to get their game on Game Pass. Then they're in a position of power because that's where everyone's at. I don't know what their cut is right now off Game Pass, but I'm pretty sure that the developers are not like Like, no, I'll just put my game on the PS4 and make a lot more money because I'm going to get X amount of dollars for every person that buys it, opposed to your $15 a month service that you're just splitting with me, however it's done. So if they can increase the amount of people in Game Pass by saying that you have to go to Game Pass to play this, then I think that's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's what I think they would do. Um, I I can't remember how recent this was, but I remember reading news that they already had 10 million people signed up for Game Pass,
I'm gonna tell
paying
you, this,
paying
I'm
somewhere
for you.
between 10 to 15 a month, I think. So,
Are you guys
Yeah,
rethinking your position on buying an Xbox now because of this?
no.
No?
uh,
I have a PC, and if all their games are coming to PC, and the Gamer Pass is available on PC, then I'm going to get the Gamer Pass for PC. I'm
yeah,
still giving in to exactly what they want. I honestly think the Series X and the Series S are going to be niche consoles. I don't think they're going to try to market those as heavily as their Gamer Pass. I think they're offering those as a means, as convenience
Mm-hmm.
for people to not have to go through the process of buying a PC,
Mm-hmm.
which is definitely more on the complex side than simply buying a console and plugging it in. And
right.
there you go. So I know Microsoft needs to offer that at the very least to get people on a gamer pass if they're not willing to
See,
use a PC.
this acquisition has really kind of changed my mind a little bit with Microsoft, to the point where I think that I might eventually buy a Series X, just because they're putting the money down. That was a lot of money, and they acquired a lot of good franchises. And it shows me that, their Game Pass, which I thought was kind of silly before, because I mean, it was a good deal, but it didn't really have a whole lot on there that, like, I would rather just play it on my PlayStation. But now
Mhm.
I'm looking at it like, man, you got some good games on there. Now they can go to companies and say, hey, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be on Game Pass. Don't you want to be on Game Pass? So it makes me actually think about it now that they have this lineup of games that are their own. And the direction I think they're going with this, I got this from Linus Tooltips or Tech Tips. I can't remember what his channel is, but you all know him. He's got millions of followers. But he was talking about this, and he thinks what Microsoft is going to do is he looks at the name of the Xbox as Xbox Series X, and he says, okay, series, it's going to be a series of consoles. He thinks that they're just going to do refreshes like every 3 years. And what they're going to do is they're going to get you on a $35 a month financing like an iPhone. And once you
Oh yeah,
pay it off in 2 years, hey, here's a new Xbox.
they
But but
sorry.
what they're doing in addition to that is, for I think $5 more, so you pay $40 a month. You've got a Series X financed, and you get Game Pass every month.
Yeah,
So
they
it's just
they're
like,
offering that already.
yeah.
Like, on their website. I
Hmm.
can't remember what the cost was, but it's like, yeah, you get the Series X
It's
and Game Pass for 2 years, and it's was it
I
I
think it's 35 for a Series X and 25 for a Series S. There's no reason to get a Series S, guys. Get a Series X. But anyways, spend the $10, get the Series X.
yeah.
Series S is like if you're someone that only wants to play like a few particular, if you're not like a real big gamer and you
Right.
just like to play like the latest Madden
Mhm.
Yeah.
every year. I know plenty of people who are like that. They just want to play like the latest sports game every year or that one title once in a while. Then yeah, the Series S is perfectly fine. But if you're someone who wants to have a dedicated gaming console to play, they definitely cough up to $200.
Did you see? Well, or if you're going to finance it, $10 more, right? It's 35 versus 25. But have you seen, this is a little bit of a tangent, but have you seen the cost of the hard drives that Microsoft says you need to, if you want to expand the storage on the Series S? It's $219 for a terabyte. And
That's pretty
the Series S only comes with like 500 gigs. Like, dude, I think you're right. Like, if you only play Madden, then maybe that'll be okay. But
Hey, how much does the Series X come with? Say it again.
the Series S, it comes with 500 gigs.
Okay, so but the
And
Series X,
no disc. So it's like you don't have the opportunity. It's all on your hard drive.
yeah.
And if you want to upgrade that to a terabyte, it's $220. So then you're already spending Series
I
X
think,
money.
again, I think the audience that Series S aims for is not going to exceed 500.
Dude,
Maybe,
Call of Duty, I've heard these games are getting like 150 gigabytes and 200
Yeah,
gigabytes.
but it's still a couple years till we get there.
Yeah.
But yes, I know what you mean. That's
Yeah. But
game
anyways,
300 kilobyte floppy disk. It's like, god damn.
yes.
yeah, I think it's good. Like a Game Pass and that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of PlayStation people who are upset that they acquired Bethesda and they may not get to play the new Elder Scrolls game like immediately when it comes out and stuff like that. But
Or
Microsoft,
$15 a month.
yeah,
I know when
Micro,
I'm actually signing up. When Halo comes out, I think I'm gonna jump on the Gamer Pass. And it's already mine's inactive right now because I haven't been using it. But I mean, Streets of Rage 4
is
like
on.
is like a $30 game,
Mhm.
but it was on the Gamer Pass. The Outer Worlds was a $60 game. It was on Gamer Pass, something I was
That's
paying
that's it though.
by the
Are you going to spend $70 for every single game next gen if you could just not spend that at all? I mean, I think that Microsoft has a situation here where they just got to keep acquiring studios and it's just a matter of time before they're just going to
Yeah.
wreck it, because why would anyone spend $70 on every single game when you could spend $15 a month and not, you would save so much money, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah,
Which
I have a feeling my PC is going to get a lot more games than it used to. Of course, I'm gonna be playing like Final Fantasy on the PS5 and going to and the Sony exclusive games and such. But if I have Gamer Pass, paying $10 a month for it, and I can
Is it
not
10?
have I
Okay,
think it's
whatever.
10 if you do
I,
PC.
I've been
yeah.
driving everyone nuts by saying 15. Keep going.
You could be right. I could be wrong. Um, I might be tempted to just play the PC version. I mean, you're right, $70 a game now,
It's
which
a
I
lot.
understand. We're long overdue for inflation on a video game, but it's still intimidating to hear $70. Like even today, I'm a lot more choosy of my games than I used to be.
Or a
Like I
month.
used to play games even if I knew they were going to be bad. I'm like, oh well, I want to try it anyways. But now I'm like, I don't know.
The day that I got a Netflix subscription for like online streaming was the day I never bought a movie from Walmart ever again.
Yeah.
Like, because I was just like, I'll wait for it to come to Netflix. Like, I'm not going to
Right.
buy that for $10, you know?
Seriously, here's a funny thing. I have like DVD. My DVDs are pretty much stored in my closet.
Yeah.
Like they're not even displayed here. I don't have any room for them. Like there was even a time where I'd rather spend $3 and just rent it for 48 hours the movie than dig in my closet
Or
to
find it.
find that DVD.
Yeah.
That's
It's like digital streaming of movies has just taken over completely.
completely
Yeah.
agree. Stan,
I
you
think
we kept taking you on tangents every time you tried to talk about this. Go ahead.
I think overall, like Microsoft being so aggressive with Games Pass is just a good thing though, because let's face it, like in the PS4, Xbox One generation, it was just like a blowout, right? But
Mhm.
usually, like if you think back to the like the PS3, Xbox 360 era, where PlayStation kind of stumbled out the gate, but eventually started catching up. Well, they caught up by really, acquiring some studios and producing some quality exclusive games, and then they continued that in PlayStation 4. So now, if Microsoft really takes off with Games Pass and it's a huge success, they're competitive, right? So they're going to respond with something that's better for PlayStation gamers as well. So even if you don't have Microsoft and you're not a Microsoft console, right, and you're
Mhm.
not interested in Games Pass, their competition, Sony, is going to respond with something else. Like we already saw, they're offering basically like all the exclusive games they had um, day one on PlayStation 5 as part of their PlayStation Plus
Well, yeah,
subscription.
it's like the I can't remember the number, but it's a specific number of their biggest hits right
Yeah,
on day one on the PlayStation 5 as part of their, I think it's supposed to be their Game Pass, the foundation for what they're going to put forth as their Game Pass
Yeah, like
competitor service.
it's a good start. It's not quite enough, right, to compare to what Microsoft's currently offering with Games Pass, but you know that they're going to be looking at more ways to compete with that. Like maybe they're going to make their like PlayStation Now service like better because of this, right? Whereas if Microsoft was just taking the same strategy they had this current generation, well, Sony would be less inclined to really, break the bank, right? To like win people back from Games Pass, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Here's the
So
Sony
companies
has a
just
wonderful library from PS1 to PS3 to PS4. If they put those games on like PS Now, like I know they have some, but like if they just put as much as their library as they possibly could, then
mm,
offer it for like 10 to 15 bucks a month, I think a lot of people would get into it.
yeah,
And and they could probably make like an upscaler for the older games to
I
make
think
them look on the streaming service.
I think that's what they're planning on doing, to be honest. Because when people were asking them, "Hey, is this PS5 going to be completely backwards compatible?" They were saying, "Oh, like the rumors were that it was going to be backwards compatible with PS4, but for PS3 and below, they had something else planned." And people were speculating, "Oh, they're going to want us to pay for every single title,
yeah,
$5 for every PlayStation 1 game." So I think you're right that they could just make that their monthly service. Hey, like you can just play these games and pay this monthly fee. But I don't know if that's good. If Microsoft keeps acquiring studios, I don't know if that's going to be enough of a pull because, but I don't see Sony. I don't see Sony offering brand new AAA games for just a monthly fee unless they absolutely have to.
right.
They're not going to do that because that's
And
$70 per game or $15 or $10 a month. I mean,
yeah,
clearly the other one's more profitable.
Well,
you
we'll
never know
have
that.
to.
Like if Games Pass goes from 10 million subscribers currently to next gen, it just explodes and it's like 30, 40 million.
100
And
million. I mean, with PC,
and Sony sees like PlayStation 5 sales like start to sag or something, then they'll be they'll get really serious as soon as it starts hitting the bottom line. They'll come up with something. You can bet on it to compete. So
yeah,
It's a see how the future holds type of deal because right now Sony is at a point where they can pretty much do what they please and everyone will, you know, put up
mhm.
with it. So staying safe in the traditional route has been working with them, so they don't really have a reason to break from it. Now,
they've had the same controller for 5 consoles, basically. They are very traditionalist.
Yeah,
yeah, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then
The small
I-
differences. Yeah.
it's like Xbox 360, then one, then X, then Series X, then Series S. Oh man.
Do you guys think that Sony could respond with a big acquisition to this and in a big way, or do you think they need to? Because I got to imagine Sony's looking at this like a little worried. That's a lot of money to throw around. I mean, if you're going to spend $7.5 billion, you could probably buy a lot of different companies that they don't want you to buy.
yeah.
Well, Sony isn't even worth a fraction of what
Yeah, they're
Microsoft
worth
is.
like 100 billion, and
That's like a
Microsoft's
dollar.
worth like 1 trillion. Yeah, or something like
Also,
that.
their gaming is the most profitable thing Sony has. Like it's the biggest share of their revenue, but it's like not even a quarter of that 100 billion. I think it's like 20 something percent
Hmm.
of their revenue. So they don't have just 7.5 billion to lying
To
around
spend.
for
It
gaming
seems
acquisition.
they've bought like 15 studios, but it seems to me like what they've done is like smaller studios that have a big hit, they'll come in and buy it for, however much, but it's not 7.5 billion. It's, however millions to buy it where cheap and just kind of help develop it. So, I mean, I was
Yeah.
trying to go ahead.
Oh no, just to add to your point, I think Sony is opportunistic. That's how they got Hideo Kojima in his studio.
Yeah.
When it like that occurs, like a big famous developer leaves a company,
It's a good
then so like
it's a good point.
Mm.
They don't have to buy the company, they just have to pull the people, right?
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, but anyways, you were saying.
Well, I was trying to think about what could they buy to, like, combat that, and I was like, well, like, if you're looking at it from Sony's perspective, it's not what do we want, it's what do we not want Microsoft to buy, right? And I mean, this is totally off the scales. Like, this Sony could never afford this, but if Microsoft came in and bought CD Projekt Red, that would just be gut-wrenching, I think, because Microsoft would own the Witcher franchise, they would own Cyberpunk, but I was trying to look up how much CD Projekt Red is worth, and they're worth right now because of the show and just because Witcher 3's just been killing it with all the, the sales on Steam and Switch and everything. They're worth billions and billions of dollars right now. So I don't think
Yeah.
Sony could afford that, but I was thinking maybe like I was like Steam. Should Sony buy Steam? Because if Microsoft bought that and incorporated that to Game Pass somehow with all these indie games, that would just be really pushing Sony into a corner, I think, because then they wouldn't be able to release anything else besides just their console, you know?
Let me ask though, do you ultimately think this is a good thing to companies? Like, let's say that Sony and Microsoft go in a bidding war for
Square Enix.
game companies to take up, and now we have companies that are keeping titles that were normally multi-platform to their own thing. And my personal philosophy is that a game should go as many consoles as possible. And I understand first parties need to gain their own console because their purpose is to sell that particular console.
Right.
But like the third party ones, you kind of wish they like everyone gets to play it.
Mm.
As a consumer, you don't benefit from Sony holding on to an exclusive IP.
Well, I think,
Like,
go
you
ahead. I'm
personally
sorry.
don't gain anything from it. Like, you want your friend who owns an Xbox to be able to play Kingdom Hearts also.
Hmm.
You don't want that to just be held to one console. You want your friend that only has a Switch to be able to play that title if it's able to play on that platform. So now, if Microsoft and Sony keep going in bidding wars, they buy this company, and they're trying to keep it exclusive IP for themselves. Like, is that ultimately good for the consumer, or is it only good for the businesses?
I think that, in my opinion, I see your point that it is bad that, somebody, maybe if you don't make a lot of money and you can only afford one console, it's, it sucks that if you're going to buy a PlayStation or you're going to buy an Xbox and you're a big Final Fantasy fan, but you're also an Elder Scrolls fan, so you bought an Xbox, and now maybe you can't play Final Fantasy for a long time until it comes to the Xbox. That sucks. That does suck. But I think that in the macro sense, them just going at each other's throats like this is great for the competition. And one of my favorite things was when this happened a couple years ago, but Walmart declared war on Amazon, and that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life because I just got so many great deals. And anytime I called customer service, I would just have to bring up the competitor and they would just pretty much give it to me for free. Like it was just fantastic at that front. So, and
So,
the competition forced Microsoft to develop things like Game Pass. So, I mean, there are arguments to be made that this does benefit to some degree, but if it's completely like separate like that and people are not being able to get to play what they want, that does suck. But at the same time, people sit there and cheer when, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn's only on PlayStation and they would get upset if it comes, the Xbox or whatever. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I think.
I
I
think
think you're speaking more of a healthy competition.
right.
Like, Coca-Cola makes vanilla Coca-Cola, and it's really good. But Pepsi's like, "Well, we should make our own vanilla
Hmm.
version, Pepsi Vanilla," and that's healthy competition. That's that's each other looking at what they're doing and trying to make themselves better. I don't think it's so much healthy competition that you're taking away companies from each other to gain an advantage on your platform. Like there's a lot of people who are complaining that Epic Games is
Yeah.
strong arming a lot of a lot of titles.
Mhm.
Like it was Borderlands 3, I think they did. That upset a lot of people because Steam is the primary platform it's be on. It was originally supposed to be on that. Then Epic came in and said, no, you have to download and use their service that you didn't want to use before now to play this game that you are looking forward to. So now say if your favorite franchise that you've always played like on a PlayStation console just got taken and now you have to play it on the Xbox.
Yeah.
Like now you want to go out and buy an Xbox just to get that. I don't think that's very pro consumer. I think pro consumer is like this is the reason why all right, so this game yes is on PlayStation 5, but this is the reason you want to play on Xbox because it runs so much better with this yada yada thing we have. Or you should play this game on Xbox because it's part of the Game Pass. And that will
Yeah.
influence Sony to say, okay, we're losing some people because Game Pass is offering games we have on their service. So why don't we make our own service
Mhm.
and build up a library through there? That's healthy competition
Mm.
because Sony is now offering a version of that product and trying to compete in that sense. I think when you try to strong arm a product over to you, I don't think that's healthy. I mean, I definitely see the pros and cons of it,
Mhm.
so I don't necessarily disagree,
Mhm.
but like I can see how it's
Yeah.
I just look at it as non-pro anti-consumer tactic more than a pro-consumer one.
I guess there's yeah, you guys outlined like there's pros and cons to both of it, like from both sides, because Epic Game Store is a perfect example because what are they adding right to the gaming space as like a service? They're basically another Steam that has all the games you can't get on Steam, right? Which is like what are they adding? They're just throwing money around and acquiring games to be exclusive to Epic Game Store, and they are giving away some like for free, like every month, But really, that's just to entice you to come to the platform and end up spending money there. But Microsoft, yes, they're flexing their wallet and acquiring Bethesda, right? But then they're also like funding a game like Hellblade 2, right? Or like Ori and the Will o' the Wisps, right? Which so they are like more proactive in like trying to fund like other games. Whereas Epic Game Store, as far as I'm aware, just seems like they're just kind of throwing cash around to make things exclusive to their platform for the purpose of just driving profit. Whereas Microsoft is at least, it would seem like Xbox Game Studios is reinvesting some of that money into make more variety of games, essentially. So I don't like, yeah, like it you're right, Eric's right though. It could like teeter onto the into the area where Microsoft has just so much money and they want to just make everything exclusive to Games Pass that they're just like, okay, we're buying Square Enix, okay, we're buying Capcom, okay, we're buying this company, and then all
They're
of a
buying
sudden,
Sega.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you're just like, great, like now I have to choose between Sony and their exclusives and Microsoft and their exclusives, which it would be bad if there was like no third party games and everything was just divided because that's kind of what's happening with uh TV, right?
Mm.
You've got Netflix, right? And then once everybody found out how much money Netflix was making, HBO said, "We have our own thing," right? CBS was like, "Okay, we got our own thing." And
Mhm.
now shows that probably would have come to Netflix eventually are like never coming to Netflix, right? They're going to be exclusive to Hulu or CBS or HBO or something else. So
See, that's where I do see the point though, because I have experienced that frustration. I'm sure we all have where, when I'm old, I'm going to talk about the glorious days of only having to have one streaming subscription, right? I used to just have Netflix and that was just adequate because almost everything was on Netflix. But then it was like, okay, well, you need Netflix and Hulu. Well, now you need Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon. Well, now you need Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. Now you need all four of those and CBS. And it's like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ, this is almost as much as my cable bill, right?
yeah,
But
hmm
the thing was, I was getting such an exceptional deal before. But the thing is, I think Eric, you're right, and I think Stan, you're right. I think it just comes down to who you are, though, because if I spent $500 on a console, especially Xbox this last gen, I would be pissed off that they weren't throwing their money around. Like, I bought your console, I'm your consumer, you need to be looking out for me, throw some of that money around. And so I think that if I am a Microsoft guy, I am a Xbox guy, I would be happy that they just made this acquisition because now these games are coming to Game Pass. You know, where it sucks is for someone else, right? That's a Sony person. Now they have to buy this other console or they have to pay this other service. So I don't know. I mean, in some respects, you could make the argument that it was better this last gen when everything just came to Sony, right? So it was much easier because you could just buy a PlayStation 4 and you'd pretty much be good, except for a few cases. But I mean, I guess it's there is a limit, right? If Microsoft comes in and buys, you know, CD Projekt Red, then they buy Square Enix, and then they buy, you know, all these other companies. You know, they buy Sega and Capcom, and it's just you know, and the Warner Brothers. It's just it's going to get to a point where they just own everything, right? And that I could see being a problem. And realistically, it brings up the fact that if Microsoft wanted to win the console war, I think we were all kind of naive to forget that Microsoft could win the console war by brute force if they wanted to. You know, if they just wanted to win. What's that?
Console wars are dead.
Our dude, I thought they were dead till Microsoft spent $7.5 billion. Then I was like, oh, I guess they're not dead. This is getting extreme. But anyways, what I'm getting at, guys, is I'm probably gonna look into buying a Series X. I'm still gonna get a PS5 first because there's still way more games that are coming to that. And I've always been a Sony guy, but
I won't completely rule out that I won't ever buy a Series X.
yeah.
But we have the PS5 that I'll probably buy around Christmas time, and then I'm gonna get the Switch Pro when that comes out. And I feel like I just would not use the Series X that much. Like the Xbox One right now, I have over there. I play more regular Xbox and 360 games on it than Xbox One games.
Yeah. I
And I don't Series X to do that.
I just have a feeling that with Game Pass and with these big games coming to Game Pass, that we're going to see a lot more games coming to the Series X, and it is a more powerful console. So it kind of makes me think like, okay, if I have that, then I would play a lot of games on the Series X as opposed to the PlayStation 5. If it looks better, even if it's 10% better, why not? But I don't want to get stuck in a situation like Raconius. He's been on our podcast before, where he's a big Kingdom Hearts guy, and he bought Kingdom Hearts 3 on the 1X because he wanted the best looking version of that game. And then the DLC was a timed exclusive for the PlayStation. So he had to wait
really?
he had to wait like 4 months to play the DLC. Whereas everyone else got it on day one. And he was like, I'm not going to buy Kingdom Hearts 3 on the PlayStation just to get the DLC. Like, he's like, I'll just wait. But
I didn't know that. That's shitty. That's really bad.
Yeah, for DLC.
Good time exclusive DLC like that.
Square.
Well, I know Call of Duty does that all the time. Like
Really?
in the Xbox 360, PS3 generation, the DLC, like the new map packs, came to Xbox 360 first. And that was because they had the larger install base of players, like actually playing Call of Duty. And
Yeah.
it came to PlayStation afterwards. And then it flip-flopped in the PS4 generation because they know the PS4 suddenly had the higher install base, so they got a deal with Sony to bring the DLC to them first. So, yeah, I agree though. That's like it's not consumer friendly.
Yeah, that's so stupid because they already own the game. They already own the game on the console. It's like,
yeah.
Anyways, so, but anyways, speaking of DLC, I said like how I'm going to transition this. Final Fantasy 16. Not DLC. Hopefully there's no DLC there, or if it is, it's done in a good way. But we've had some more. What's that?
At least you tried.
Yeah, I tried. It's pretty abrupt transfer, but anyways, Final Fantasy 16. We've had some news with it. We talked about it a little bit in the discussion video that we did yesterday. That was really good. You guys should go check it out. It was basically on the direction of Square Enix with Final Fantasy in general, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it here. And anyways, there's been a little bit of news with Final Fantasy 16. There's the fact that it's got a provisional rating of 18. This provisional rating is a rating that goes in for marketing material. So basically it's to warn people that, hey, this trailer you should be at least 18 years old to watch, that type of thing. So a lot of people are looking at that 18 rating as like an ESRB rating, but it's just for like the trailer and stuff like that. But it is a good indication of what the actual game is going to be rated. But Yoshi P also talked about the game and said that in October, at the end of October, we're going to get a website with some more information on the game, including characters and stuff with the world. And then in 2021, he promised that we would get a very nice looking trailer. And he was kind of responding to some of the criticisms of the graphics by saying that, hey, he didn't want to do a CG trailer because he knew that Americans would say, see you in 2035, kind of jokingly. So he was like, I wanted to put a trailer out there that showed where the game was and like actual gameplay. So that way I didn't have to deal with that. And I kind of respect that. But he did say that, you know, it was a lot of work because it wasn't really, a lot of the stuff wasn't optimized for trailer footage yet when it was recorded. So, but he promised 2021, when we get the next trailer, it's going to be very nice looking. So I'm sure it will be. But Eric, you know, you gave your Final Fantasy 16 trailer thoughts, you know, an hour or two after, or I guess a couple hours after it was revealed. And that was basically kind of the off the cuff impressions. And now that you've had, you know, a week and a half to kind of sit with it and see what other people are saying, is like, are you pretty much thinking the same things that you were thinking on the reveal? Have you changed any of your opinions, or where are you at now with Final Fantasy 16?
I guess I haven't changed my opinions too much. I'm really pleased to hear that it had actually been in production even before 15 got released.
Yeah.
And it actually makes sense now because a lot of people, when after Heaven's Ward finished, a lot of people moved to a different area of the company, and we didn't really know where.
Some of
And
those,
we're now finding out.
real quick, can I say something real quick? I'll let you keep going. On addition to that, remember there was all that fiasco with the job pages that were posting, hiring people for a Final Fantasy game, and people thought it was a 7 remake, and people were like flipping out because they were looking at some of the stuff that they were looking for, right? Like level design, and people were like, "Oh my god, they're remaking the game again!" Right? People were flipping out because they thought the 7 remake was starting over again because they were looking at the job description and what they were hiring. But this was probably for Final Fantasy 16. So, anyways, I just thought that was an interesting note. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so turns out they have the man who wrote Heaven's Ward
Hmm.
for FF14 on as a writer for this game. And I know you two haven't experienced Heaven's Ward yet, but wow, that is one hell of a story. And it's so ridiculously well written. And if that type of storytelling is being used for Final Fantasy 16, I'm from optimistic to legitimately excited for this game. They have the right people on. They have uh Yoshi P as a producer to make sure the quality is there. The director is the one that I might be a little about, but I think under a good producer like Yoshi P, I think he'll probably be fine. You got the battle director from Devil May Cry 5 and Dragon's Dogma and Devil
Yeah.
May Cry 3 for coming in to make sure the battle system uh, is working very well and helping do any changes that he sees fit. So I really like the team that's behind it. I really like the dark medieval aesthetic to it. Um, I like the premise where it's going. I see the two generation type thing. So my opinion hasn't changed too much of the game itself, but like I said, I'm just very excited for all the people who are behind it And I'm glad it's not something we're going to see in 2035. It's something we might actually see late 2021, early the mid 2022. My guess around there. Um, yeah. So, like I said, my opinion hasn't changed too much on the game itself. I definitely could see it. I definitely called it being mature rating because they have a scene where they pick up the kid's father, stabs him through the gut, and the blood spills all over the child's face. I'm like, there's no way that can get past a teen rating.
Yeah,
You
teen.
spill blood on a child who's now traumatized. That's
That would
that's not
traumatize children watching that. Yeah.
yeah, that's a mature title game. Which makes me think if Square Enix is making the right choice. I don't know how heavy it affects sales if you decide to make your game mature instead of teen. I'm not sure if that makes a big difference in America because kids can get their most kids will get their hands on a title, especially in the digital era now.
Yeah.
Are you over 18? Well, yeah, of course.
I
But
never got carded ever until like I was in my 20s. It was weird. I think like they used to not check when I was a kid.
you wouldn't get fired for not checking. You might get a slap on the wrist if a parent came in and said, "Hey, you sold my child a mature game. How dare you?" And your manager would be like, "Don't put like watch out next time." Like, but GameStop actually put a policy in. I don't know if they're still enforcing the rule nowadays. I haven't worked in one in 12 years, but they had a policy of you sold a mature game to a child and the parent came back and complained about it, like you would get like a heavy written up or you could get fired for it.
Mm.
Like the punishment was that severe. So they were a lot more strict on getting it checked out in the mid 2000s at least. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't we still need to see another trailer
Hmm.
or maybe that teaser website to get a better idea. We still don't know if you use multiple party members
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
we don't know how the world is structured. Is it an open world game? Is it zone structured? Is it linear?
Mm.
Is it like a Final Fantasy 10 or 13 experience?
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping it's either like um actually I take that back. I really hope it's like Dragon Quest 8 and 11. And I say that because you had a semi world map that you traveled through, but there was still a scope to a big world ultimately. And you got to explore these dungeons and towns that were very well designed. And when you got a flying creature, you got to see the entire world that you explored over the course of the game that made it feel really big at
Mhm.
the end of the day. So
Mm.
I kind of hope 16 goes in that direction.
Yeah.
Because open world was just, I just don't think it worked well with 15
Right.
at all.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It has potential to work out, but the problem is with these type of open world games, you kind of make a land like a or like an island of a game, and sometimes it can work like with FF10. You were ultimately on one big island, but 15 definitely failed on that. You're on 18 miles of road and a boat trip to one town. That
Yeah.
was pretty much
You know, I don't know if I'm on board with the 2021 date because I've been pretty vocal on my release window there. But as far as like the game itself, I've kind of come to terms with the fact that since it has a mature rating and the fact that Yoshi P has said that he's a Game of Thrones fan and there is a Game of Thrones influence here, that those two things have told me that this wasn't a commercial decision as much as it was just Square letting Yoshi P and his crew do what they want. So I'm kind of hopeful that from that perspective, that at least somebody is passionate about, what they're doing. Whereas with 15, it was Tabata executing Nomura's vision, and 13, they weren't on the same page at all. You saw that in development history. Everyone thought they were making a different type of game. So even with 12, there was the whole Matsuno leaving, and they brought on a new director. And so I'm just happy that Square's letting the director do what they want, a producer do what they want. They want it to be an M-rated game. They're doing the M rating, and that's going to cut into sales, but it's creatively what they want to do. So I'm hopeful for this game. I think that it's probably going to be one of the better games that we've gotten in a very long time. So I think that I've kind of reversed course a little bit on my thoughts. I'm a lot more optimistic.
I would just like to remind everyone that before 16 was announced, there was some concept art
Yeah.
for the game when they were hiring people and showing off some area scene designs. There were
Mhm.
some colorful ones there. Like there was an airship going over this green land with clear blue water. It didn't look like a too over the top medieval there. And there was one with like a beautiful looking kingdom with a castle that's on a cliff.
Mhm.
Like there's if there's areas like that in the game, I'm very hopeful
Yeah.
of kind of places you get to go in the game, which goes back to me saying a lot over and over again, we need to see another trailer.
Yeah, I do think this trailer that we did see, I think the biggest criticism I had was I don't think it was a well executed trailer in terms of just what a trailer is supposed to do, get you knowledgeable about the world, get you excited for the game. I said on our discussion yesterday that perhaps starting in the first 7 seconds with an axe going in some guy's head, that was very much setting the tone of this is a new Final Fantasy direction. So perhaps if they had started with a Moogle or something more typical Final Fantasy, that might have kind of let people ease in a little bit. But I'm excited to see what they do. I do want to just kind of lay the groundwork here real quick for what I think is a possible early release. Okay. So let's say this. There are rumors that this trailer was supposed to be at the April showcase for the PlayStation 5, but they moved it to this showcase. Now, if they did not change the footage at all, it's the same exact trailer. That would mean that footage was probably recorded sometime last year and put together, or, early this year. And in that case, that footage is actually pretty old. And if that's the
Mhm.
case, so this is where I'm at, that I just need some more information to be able to sold on this idea that this game's going to come out earlier than late 2022, maybe 2023, because I mean that footage was rough. Yoshi P said himself that it wasn't really optimized for a trailer. It was the only game on PC, right? It wasn't the PS5, which was weird. You know,
Yeah.
I was watching an Angry Joe comment on it, and he was like, "Looks cool, but PS5 showcase. Hello, why are you not showing me PS5 footage? You're trying to sell me the console." And it was the only game not on PS5, right? So I would imagine that they were under immense pressure to put PS5 footage out there. So I think Eric, you're right. We're going to know a lot more once we see another trailer or follow up. But that's kind of where I'm at. I just need some more information to make a real determination on that. So
I think they tease us the right things, but I guess maybe in the wrong ways.
yeah,
Like they showed us like a setup for stuff, but they don't. But they're still not really telling us what you're like how you play the game.
it's
And
like
hopefully in 2021 they'll dive more into that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I want to know how that combat works. I want to see some party members. I want to find out our main character's name. That'll be really important. So
So, what weather related name do you think the main character will get?
um,
I think I've asked that question before, but it's so funny to think that what they may call it. I'll call him, but they might give him a
Twilight. I
normal
don't know.
name because we got one of the characters' name is Josh.
Yeah, that was my one of my first thoughts. I forgot about that. Was he said
Joshua.
Joshua, and I was like, hmm, no Waka,
Meet our new mystical main character, David.
Yeah.
dude. I'll hate it if it's that, right? It's just like Dave. I'll just be like, okay, I completely change all my thoughts. They're trying to appeal to a Western audience. Our main character's name is Dave. So, yeah. Anyways, Eric, real quick before we end this, are you going to, if it comes out that the game is literally just no party members, just a single character, where's that going to sit with you? I mean, obviously you would have to play the game and everything like that to make a final determination, but we were talking about that yesterday. Like, where is the line that is going to be too much change for you to?
I'd be disappointed, but I mean, I would still judge the product itself if it works out like it's supposed to.
Yeah. Like,
I'd still buy it, but
look, I'll say it
get
before,
crazy.
I'll say it again. Sakaguchi's Final Fantasy is done. With the Final Fantasy,
watch
it
has
is
ended.
now is under the vision of different people now, and I've accepted that these Final Fantasies will never be the same as Sakaguchi. 14 to me, I think, is the only one that has been able to get closest to it, but ultimately still does not hold in true spirit of the older FFs at the end of the day, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I don't think 16 is going to be that either, but I still think it's still going to be a really good game. And I think it may use the Final Fantasy elements well also. So at the end of the day, I kind of just accept how they're going to go about it, even if I don't necessarily agree with it.
Right.
Now, I wish it was turn-based, party members, like old classic way, but that's not the direction they clearly want to go. So I'm just going to judge it on its own merits. I can easily complain all day that like it needs to be the old Final Fantasy, in which I still think in a way it does, but that's not the direction they've chosen to take. They believe this is the right one. So I'm just going to judge the product as it is.
Yeah. And the thing is, this is Yoshi P's flavor of Final Fantasy, and it's going to be a little bit different, but we've had this before with different directors having a different taste. So, and, you know, Square has put a lot of work into fixing a lot of internal issues, you know, with the reconsolidation effort to kind of consolidate everything and get everything a little bit more efficient. And they've gotten 15 out. They promised 7 remake. They got a game out they called 7 remake. You know, they've fixed a lot of issues, and I'm willing to give them a shot. So that's kind of where I'm at. But
if there's anyone who can make Final Fantasy good again, maybe not the same as it was before, but it could make it good again, it's Naoki Yoshida.
Oh.
He's the man for it.
I thought you were going to say Mike Pence or something.
I mean, Mike Pence can make games.
I've been watching too much election coverage or something.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, we're on that note. Let's end that there. Great note to end on. But we do have some stuff we want to talk about with the show real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap the podcast up. But if you guys are not aware, we have picked the next game. You guys voted, and what came out on top was Super Mario RPG. So really excited about that. Eric, you said you just played through it, right?
I played through about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, close enough. Yeah.
On an emulator. It's a quick playthrough if you know it very well.
Yep.
So
hold some thoughts for the review.
It took me less than 15 hours to beat it.
Yeah,
100% it actually.
Yeah, that's a good game. I'm excited. I'm about 6 or 7 hours into the game, so you know we'll see from there. But we'll be doing a full discussion on Super Mario RPG in the near future, so look forward to that. And then also just bring up that we are media partners with RPGFan.com. So they are just an awesome source for news, and they have other RPG podcasts on there, several, in fact. And so that way you don't have to wait till next week to listen to us. So definitely go check them out. And they have a YouTube page as well. I'm providing game footage a lot of times for a lot of those reviews. So definitely go check their YouTube channel out as well, rpgfan.com. Check it out. And one other key piece I forgot to bring up is that in case you're confused, I am starting to do a off the cuff kind of discussion video podcast, pretty irregular, but it's going to be frequent enough where just discussing some of the Final Fantasy stuff that's kind of outside the scope of this podcast. So no worries. Nothing's with our podcast is going to change. We're still going to talk about all the same stuff we would normally talk about. So we'll still talk about Final Fantasy on here. Obviously we just did, but some of the rumors and speculation and stuff like that will probably go on there as opposed to on this podcast. So that way, with 2 Final Fantasy games being in development right now, I can't believe I'm saying that, but 2 Final Fantasy games being in development right now, there's going to be a lot of news, a lot of little snippets and comments, and it would be real easy for this Phoenix Edge RPG podcast to rapidly turn into a Final Fantasy 16 and 7 Remake Part 2 podcast. So, so we're going to still talk about all that stuff, still talk about all the trailers, anything big we'll still talk about on this podcast. But that other podcast discussion is going to be just kind of an outlet for that. And Eric and Stan said they would join if they could and if they're interested in the topics. But I'll just be pulling people on to talk. And it's going to be a little less scripted than this one. But we recorded the first video yesterday. It was me, Stan, and Alleyway Jack. And I think it was a pretty good discussion. We talked about Final Fantasy 16 and that kind of ventured off on its own territory with Final Fantasy 12. So, but it was a lot of fun. So just look out for that. So just want to keep you guys informed. And is there anything else we need to discuss? I think that's it.
I think that's it. Yep.
Cool.
We'll be back.
On that note, we will catch you all next week. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
See you next time.